All kinds of weird these days. Um, I'm gonna wait till it tells me that we're live, and then we'll
We're not
start.
live yet. Well, I'm looking at it right now. I don't think so.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We are live, and I mean, you might be watching us like after we're live, in which case, we were live. But if you're watching us live, then we are live now. And with that being said, I'm of course Daniel, and we've got lots to talk about as always. Yesterday we had a long 2 hour also curious times DCU Daily, and we went through breaking news with Clayface news. As well as a bunch of other DC related, content, but more Lex Luthor references that James Gunn has been using for the movie. So we've got a bit more of that today. We want to talk about whether, this new Clayface movie is going to be part of the DCU or maybe it's an Elseworld story. We'll discuss that. There is, of course, the Future Commandos episode 3, a very eventful episode. And so we'll dive into that. We'll talk about the Easter eggs in there. We'll look ahead to episode 4, and of course beyond that we have a bunch of other news as we usually do. So to get into that and so much more, as always with me, I've got John. How are you doing today?
Good. A whole bunch of news, a lot of Courage Commandos. I did stay up until 3. I didn't mean to. I was like, I'm gonna go to bed early like a good boy, and then I just didn't. YouTube Shorts, man, they're an addiction. I gotta delete the app before I go to bed, and then go to sleep because like I swear
Dude,
to God,
yeah,
it's like
it's the
every
infinite
time
scroll. It
every
works.
time I like try to go to bed early, like I remember the other day I was like so tired. It was like 10:30. I'm like, I'm gonna just go into bed. And then I like stayed up for like the next 6 hours in bed, not doing anything. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why can't I just be normal? What's wrong with me, Dan? What's wrong with me, huh?
Dude, I don't know what to tell
Don't
you.
answer that. You know what? Don't answer that.
I think you're
Chat,
just
don't
asking for
answer
the
that.
wrong. Yeah, yeah. But by the way, I was just checking on YouTube. We were live the whole time where I was like, I'm just gonna wait till we're live. And then, I sat there for
You
30
know,
seconds.
YouTube and
It's
Restream, they're annoying. It's fine. I
it's
mean,
it's
I
so
was
weird.
literally
Like,
talking
I'm
out
just
loud for
gonna
like a
say
full
this.
2 minutes about
I
how,
did see
oh, we're
that.
not
Yeah,
live, and then we
I
were
have to
live.
fix that. And you just like you came on, then you went back. I mean, it's so weird. Cause like Restream of late, it's like they have started to break their stuff when it wasn't broken before
Yeah.
for no reason. And you know that little screen that used to come up when you hit like turn on all the outputs, and then it was like yes, confirm. Like people must have hated it so much because it lasted only a week and now it's gone. So I'm like, clearly, people, get your shit together. I'm okay. Most of you guys have no idea what we're talking about. So let's get into stuff that you do know what we're talking about. And of course, we have to talk about all the news from the world of DC as we usually do. John, yesterday we were discussing this, and so it's a little bit of a recap. So if you missed yesterday's episode, or if you haven't had a chance to see it all the way through, because it was a 2 hour long show, and we went through like a million different things, including DC news. So of course, one of the things we talked about yesterday was Aaron Pierre. He was doing an interview with Entertainment Weekly for the Mufasa movie, Mufasa the Lion King. He's voicing one of the characters in that film, and so he's been doing the promotional tour alongside his fellow co-stars in the movie. And of course, usually you talk about the movie that you're promoting, and at the end you get one question about another project that the actor may be involved in. And so right now, the biggest thing Aaron Pierre is involved in outside of Mufasa is, of course, the new Lantern show for DC. So they did ask him, hey, what was your exposure to the character? Like, what are your thoughts on, playing Jon Stewart? And as part of that response, he said, basically, I grew up watching the Justice League animated series, and that's what introduced him to the character of Green Lantern. And he has never seen the Ryan Reynolds movie. So people are like, that's a plus, and then another plus on top of that. And then when you look at it, the follow through, it's not just Justice League. He watched like the Justice League Unlimited series. I mean, to me, both of those series are goated. Like they're just fantastic, and
I mean, yeah.
quite frankly, they've defined a lot of people's love for the character of Green Lantern and like the Green Lanterns in general. And so a lot of people like my age who grew up with the show, their Green Lantern is Jon Stewart, and then like Hal Jordan kind of became secondary, even though Hal Jordan has had a presence in animation, and of course we had the Ryan Reynolds movie. For a lot of us, like we were like, Jon Stewart, of course, Jon Stewart, and we haven't gotten that in live action yet, but now we will. Of course, we'll get a Hal Jordan as well. So I wanted to again just run this by you, John, because yesterday, like I said, we kind of had a million different things going on.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts again on just Aaron Pierre taking inspiration? I mean, that was his touch point. That's how he
I
first
mean, that's what it
discovered
was for
Green
everyone
Lanterns.
else. It was
Yeah.
like, I don't mean to sound mean or anything, but it's like, yeah, you're not special. Like anyone who's around that age, I mean, he's a couple years older than us. And it's like, yeah, all of us were introduced through, I mean, to the Justice League through the Timverse or the Batman animated series universe, whatever you want to call it. You know, that's how so many people were introduced to these characters is through animation, through, you know, what was it? Was it Phil Lamar who voiced him, or was it? No, Carl Lumley was Martian
I'm gonna have
Manhunter,
to look that up. I don't actually remember. I mean, I never even
um,
bothered to look at that stuff up. It was
or
to
was it Michael
me,
Beach? Might have been Michael Beach. Um, I'm not sure.
yeah.
I don't. I never. I know I need to watch the show. I just it was
Well,
one of
because
those
Carl
things.
Lumbly, who's playing Isaiah, what's his name in the new Captain America movie,
Yeah,
he voiced John Jones. He was also
yeah,
in Supergirl. He was like a Martian Manhunter's dad, which is funny because he actually played the voice
yeah.
Martian
I'm sure
Manhunter in the
that's why
animated.
they chose him
That's why
for
they
that.
brought him back. But he's plays Isaiah. I forget his whole name. He's
Isaiah
playing like the
Bradley.
old Isaiah Bradley, the older the black Captain America, who never got to really have his acclaim. But then when you look at who played John Stewart, it was Phil Lamar. I think you mentioned
Who
Phil
also
Lamar.
played Maalefik Johns in Supergirl. So
Yeah, so
there
they
was that as
brought
well.
all kinds of like yeah, connections there.
Just reminding
Um,
you of shows you could be watching, but instead you're watching Garbo like Supergirl. So
but hey, Aaron Pierre, he's the one taking on the mantle now. I'm just excited to see that again. This is his touch point, which excites me because yeah, that's the version that I grew up with, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it lasted for several seasons. They went from Justice League to Justice League Unlimited and added
I
a
think it was like
ton more
three. I think
characters.
it was like 2 or 3 seasons for Justice League, and then it was two
Yeah,
or three seasons for Justice League Unlimited. Whatever one
yeah.
did, like one of them had 2 seasons, one of them had 3 seasons. I forget which one.
I want to say the original had 3 seasons, but I might be wrong. Somebody let us know in the chat if you guys remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of bring this up again because I know like it's important because like we talked about yesterday, when you hear somebody talk about like somebody playing a character or talk about that
Hmm.
set character with some reverence, like Nicholas Holt has been talking about, of course, Lex Luthor, which we'll get into a little bit later as well. It's just fun. It's just fun to see that because obviously that means like the actor has been doing their research, and it's hopefully gonna pay off when we do get that final iteration that we get to see in Lanterns. Maybe we'll get some behind the scenes look at their suits and stuff when they start filming next year. I'm really looking forward to that myself. But there's the other thing that we actually I think this has come up before, but I wanted to kind of touch upon it a little bit here, just really quickly, John. James Gunn
Hmm.
keeps being asked, of course, naturally, what is Peacemaker season 2 going to be about? How is it going to be different from season 1? And of course, the line that we have heard before is it's a really magical story that people are going to be blown away by. And then, of course, we have that picture of like somebody sitting by the fire. We were speculating for a long time that it might have been, Rick Flag Jr., Joel Kinnaman, who we pretty much know at this point is going to have at least some presence in the show, probably through flashbacks. But
Yeah.
um, so as far as like mysticism and magical, like I don't know how literal we need to take that statement from James Gunn. The other thing that we didn't really talk about that James Gunn also mentioned, again, it's nuance, it's one little thing, probably blowing it out of proportion, but he did say that the season 2 takes a very different route than the first season. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on what you think James Gunn means by that in terms of just a very different route. Does he mean when he said, and then he went on to say like it's a very magical story. So when you combine those pieces together, should we take that very literally, or is he just being like, oh, it was so magical as in is because we have heard from like Steve G, for example, that it's a bigger world, a bigger story than the first season and Peacemaker because like the DCU is not the same as the DCEU. It's a much more
Right.
expansive universe. There's a lot more characters in it already, a lot more meta humans. Even like in the latest podcast from DC Studios, the official podcast, they were talking about the concept of power scaling, and then they cut that up into shorts and like put it out there across all the platforms. So
Right.
obviously that concept is probably gonna come into play. So like, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, just how much bigger, how much more magical, and how different? Like, what does different
I
mean for season 2
I
of
think
Peacemaker?
well, in terms of the magical part, I think that's just him being descriptive
Yeah,
of blessed from the start, it's magical, that kind of, euphoric adjectives to describe his new universe. It's
Right.
entirely possible he could be saying, because I mean, look at Cersei as the villain, and we'll get to that soon enough. Creature Commandos, and she's a sorceress, so that's something, or enchantress, whatever you want to fucking call it. So there is a level of magic in this universe that was kind of sort of in the DCU, but not as much. And so it's definitely, but even then, I think it's just him being like, oh, it's magical. It's a magical season. And I think very different, like in terms of the world building and what we're gonna get. I think it's very much gonna be, it's gonna feel very different, but like obviously it's gonna be the same on a surface level. It's, and maybe even the core of it, but I think like the everything surrounding it is gonna feel very different because it's a new world. It's technically different characters. I mean, we have a little bit of, you know leftovers from, as we know, some of the events of Suicide Squad
Right.
are canon. So we're getting that, and then on top of the fact, we're getting Creature Commandos getting in there with Frank Grillo. I assume I'm gonna take a wild guess at the end of the season that, or maybe in
Of
a
Creature
post,
Commandos, do you mean
either
Creature
Creature
Command?
Commandos or a
Okay.
post credit scene of Superman, depending on
Right.
how they want to lead it in. Um, Depending on how they want to do it, or whether they might not have post credit scenes at all to like distance themselves from Marvel, which it seems like James Gunn really wants to do at this point.
I mean, I think
So
he's trying to say that his approach is different, and quite frankly, so far when he says things like it's closer to Star Wars and then the MCU because it's not just one story, it's like worlds and different time periods and stuff. And like to me, what that says is like he's like we can do what Marvel did, but do it on a much bigger scale because there's nothing stopping us from doing that. And so I
yeah.
took that statement as in general, just like James Gunn has a lot more foresight into beginning his cinematic
Hmm.
universe than Kevin Feige did, because Kevin Feige, like it was the way the DCEU started was a bit reactionary because they try to ram in a bunch of these characters and expand so quickly to catch up to Marvel. But with Marvel, like they were just when the first few movies came out, Disney hadn't bought Marvel. They were distributing their movies through Paramount. Like it was a couple of years in that happened after the first Iron Man movie came out. So it was like Marvel was taking a big risk financially. If that movie failed, they would have died. So they couldn't afford to be like, all right, we got like 5 movies in the can and we got another 5 TV shows planned. It was sort of like, let's see how it goes, and then as things went well for the
Right.
first few movies, the Avengers movie comes out, and then Disney buys it. Disney by that around that time had bought Marvel, so things kind of went up and up. So Kevin Feige did not have that foresight, and now that the universe is 10, 15 years old, obviously you can see until we get to like the soft reboot post Secret Wars, they have a lot of problems that they wouldn't have had if they had that foresight being like, and
Right.
we have so much longer to work with this
And
because yeah,
yeah.
so why not do that for James Gunn with the DCU?
So
So
yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of um so I think we're gonna get some different stuff, but not too different. And then we're like, I have a feeling with the post credit scene of Creature Commandos or even Superman, we're gonna get Frank Grillo, like Amanda Waller. It's like she's like, Amanda Waller, okay, you did this thing for me. And he's like, and she's like, okay, you did this thing. Here's what you really want. And she's like, what's this? It's a file. It's on this guy who fucking outed me. Fucking, he was a liar. Blah blah blah. All this other shit. Thing is, he fucking killed your kid. His name's Peacemaker, aka Christopher Smith. Go
uh,
have your fun. And like it ends there. I could see them doing that.
I could
Um,
see it. It would work well in Creature Commandos because it's animated. I think you need it to be a little more nuanced if it was a live action show, but it would work well in Creature Commandos, and it
yeah.
would be a perfect segue to like you don't know me, but you will. I like something like, Jason Statham style. He kind of drops into the world of Peacemaker, kills John Economos off the top, and like I'm just speculating. Nobody said that's gonna happen, but like something like that, right? Like you like need to have a big entrance, like he's coming after this guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, So
But
sorry about the
yeah,
Niners, man. But we're here for you, Antonio. Like, glad to have you on the
whatever.
stream. John is a Giants fan, so he's like, whatever. Like,
And plus, I don't really
could be
care about
worse.
sports. I don't care about
Yeah.
sports. I mean, the Giants
Yeah.
suck, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not a big sports guy.
Well, okay, so that was the Peacemaker little like piece of news, and it's not really news. It's something that we hadn't really talked about too much before. Now I wanted to kind of talk because we're kind of getting through some of the new stuff before we get to our Clayface conversation later, and then we're gonna obviously also talk about Creature Commandos episode 3. But before we do that, John, of course got our first look at, and it's like a full trailer for season 5 of Harley Quinn.
Gross.
So it's coming out January 16th on Max. And according to the trailer, they're gonna grab Metropolis by the balls. Are you excited to see what the next season of Harley Quinn is?
This is my thoughts on Harley Quinn is a boogery tissue. That's what Harley Quinn is. A boogery tissue that belongs in the garbage. So that's all I have to say about that.
Fair enough, but I will say like it got delayed because originally it was gonna come out in December, but it seems like I don't know the reason why, we haven't really looked into it, but it looks like they delayed it by a few weeks, so now it's gonna come out mid-January, which is a good time for a lot of TV shows actually. If you're a big fan of television, I'm looking forward to like The Night Agent, the Recruit, which are like 2 shows about like like spycraft on Netflix that are coming back. Reacher 3 comes out in January. Right, they're all like the 3rd week of January. And then, of course, Silo is airing right now, so like that will be continuing on Apple TV Plus. And then Severance comes back on Apple TV Plus in January. It's a big month for TV shows. And of course, now you can add to that if you're a fan of Harley Quinn, which of course 5 seasons in, it's got an audience, and we are all still eagerly anticipating a potential renewal for the Kite Man show, maybe coming back for season 2. But in the meantime,
I think it did get confirmed by Dean Lorry.
Did we miss
I
that?
think at some point it did. I think it might have. I think it might have did the same thing at Cape Crusader, where like 2 seasons got greenlit at the same time. I don't know totally, but obviously we'll see. But I think I remember reading that somewhere, but it wasn't like an official source or anything like that. So don't take that as gospel, grain of salt. But I remember reading that somewhere. I don't know.
I don't remember us talking about it much on the
No,
show.
I don't think we talked about it, but I remember like
we'll look into it. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally would be interested in seeing if it did get renewed or not. I would have remembered it, honestly. I don't know if it was like an official confirmation, but I think we did talk about like they were thinking about it, but there wasn't anything official or confirmed. So maybe they're
the
waiting
only
to see
thing the only thing I have is like
Yeah.
Dean Lorry confirmed it in an interview, and that it might be getting a second season, but I don't know where that interview is, and I'm getting my source from a Reddit commenter. So I'm not going to take that as gospel.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, because I love that show, but
Right.
Gotham's reckoning. The Cowboys reckoning. It deserves to be reckoned.
Deserves to be reckoned. That's what Bane said at the beginning of that movie.
It deserves reckoning.
It's like, if I take that off, will you die? He's like, it will be very painful.
Which one do you sniff out of?
It's just the other day I was like clip hunting because we were working on a new DCU daily intro sequence, and I obviously like grabbed some Bane content, so I just in my head right now. It's like, you just made a grave mistake. It's like, no, he's like, you just made a very serious mistake. Like, not as grave as yours, I'm afraid. It's like, I forget. I'm mixing my Batman and Bane accents, but like it's.
Put it into the future.
Molded by it. Okay, never mind. All right, let's move on. We're gonna move on from Bane. That was supposed to be a Harley Quinn thing, but anyway.
Gross.
We're going to talk about James Mangold, Mr. James Mangold, who was recently on the red carpet for Complete Unknown. That's the name of the movie, the Bob Dylan movie that Timothée Chalamet is starring in. And so he was, of course, interviewed for, by many a journalist on the red carpet. Amongst them, one of the Deadline journalists asked him the question about Swamp Thing. Like, can you tell us a little bit about Swamp Thing? What's going on with that? And to that question, he basically said, I don't know. And then he went on to say, I've just been the engineer getting this train to the station. Now, like, post right here, for example, and this is not the only one, it's misconstruing what James Mangold said. Now, the first part where he says "don't know," he was referring directly to the actual Swamp Thing movie that he is meant to be shepherding and being the director of. The engineer getting this train to the station. When you actually watch the interview, which he's literally just on the red carpet, like I'll put up the clip right here. He's more referencing the movie, A Complete Unknown. He's saying like I was shepherding this train to the station, as in The Complete Unknown, not Swamp Thing or any other project that he might be involved in. So like I'll play this. I don't know if the sound comes through. Like
Yeah.
so when you listen to it, you can kind of understand like, oh, by the whole engineer getting this train to the station right now, he's referring to A Complete Unknown. The reason why we bring this up, because of course, even if the second half of that statement is not, in reference to Swamp Thing, the first half is. He's like, I don't know. So, John, do you think has been any development here? Do you think this is one of those situations where James Gunn just, told Mangold that, hey, go and do what you got to do with this other movie, and then, we'll have something for you
And
when
then we'll
you're
have something
freed up.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
was kind of pissed at first, but now that I know the context, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's understandable. I mean, I have my, iffiness about James Mangold is just like the way he acted during, his Dial of Destiny behind the scenes. It was very juvenile and childish. I love his movies. He's a great director. I'm sure Complete Unknown is amazing. I have no interest in it. I just honestly, I might watch I think it was Todd Haynes did that Bob Dylan movie with like Kate Blanchett, Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, like 7 different people played Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that because that looked actually unique and interesting. This just kind of looks like a boring, normal biopic. Nothing against it, but it's just like it's like we already saw him do Johnny Cash. Why are you doing another biopic? Like, come on, man.
Fiona
But
liked your Bane voice, by the way. It's
yeah.
yeah. I'm
But
Gotham's Reckoning. I can't do it as well. Anyway, go ahead.
No. So that like always bothered me, like throwing John Williams under the bus and like not taking like accountability for his garbage ass movie. So it's just like, it's just like it's disheartening. I lost a lot of respect for him.
Look, here's the thing,
but
though.
I think he'll do a good job with this. He did talk about. He's like, I want it to be like a gothic horror, human tragedy, and that's definitely Swamp Thing's vibe. So I think he could do a lot of great things with this. It's just you got to separate the art from the artist. I'm just like, I think he'll make a great movie. I mean, Complete Unknown was like way better than this Indiana Jones movie, and I don't think his fucking Star Wars movie is gonna happen anytime soon. So
I mean, nobody's Star Wars movie is gonna happen anytime soon.
I mean, they're like,
oh
yeah,
is
Patty
like off
Jenkins,
the calendar,
Kevin
so.
Feige, James Mangold,
Taika
David S.
Waititi.
Goyer, Taika Waititi, like all these guys.
Stephen DeKnight, like, and then
Stephen
what was
DeKnight.
What was the latest guy?
Ryan Johnson had a trilogy.
Simon Kinberg was writing a trilogy. I don't know what's going on with that.
Like he's gonna do 10 through 12 or something.
Yeah,
and then there was also a guy whose name I can't.
He thinks he's gonna do 10 through 12.
Yeah, he thinks. He couldn't even do the second part of his Dark Phoenix movie.
I mean, no, but honestly though, but that was because he was directing it, and that's not a good movie to be like your directorial debut. Like that was a big movie. But we got Buster Barnes and Angelica and Magical Sky Wizard in the chat. Hello.
But yeah, so I'll see. Like I still have a lot of faith in him as a director. Yeah. Like he's produced pretty much nothing but bangers outside of Indiana Jones 5. So like, yeah, the juvenile behavior was annoying, but you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think. Although I will say it's kind of interesting how he's like, multiverse stories are the death of storytelling. Meanwhile, he's, doing the thing that's big with multiverses right now. So I think that's kind of funny. I know this isn't going to be a multiverse thing. I just find it to be funny. So
We also got Lex and Ray J in the chat. Hello to all y'all. Um, I mean, Lex, you gotta are you just trolling? Cause like, where are your sources? You gotta tell us your sources. Like, you can't just
multiple insiders, source. Trust me, bro.
trust me, bro. If it's sarcasm, then let that be it.
told me, bro. I
By
swear,
the
bro.
way, like Buster Barnes asking, like none of these news sources usually have like the question, which is true. I'm going to the wrong link, and there you go. That's the one. So it looks like the question he was asked was literally, can you give us an update on like Swamp Thing and your Star Wars project? And the way he answered it was like, don't know. Like, it's pretty much straightforward. So this, of course, is the video where that quote comes from. He was interviewed by a Deadline journalist on the red carpet for the new Bob Dylan, biopic, A Complete Unknown, starring Timothy Chalamet. So that's where that is from, Buster. And then Angelica asking, I'm curious who's going to be the director of Clayface movie. I consider Guillermo del Toro or Sam Raimi attached to direct Clayface. You know what? We're going to save that question because we're getting to that in a few minutes, Angelica. We're actually going to talk about it because apparently there's a search ongoing now, so we will get into that. But yeah, as far as, James Mangold and Swamp Thing goes, look, I think when it was announced that he was attached to the project, and then the whole DCU lineup came out, and James Gunn made that announcement. Much like with Andy Muschietti being tied up with Welcome to Derry at the time, you were like, okay, James Mangold's got a couple of things ongoing, so chances are he's not going to get to this until after those projects. So now that The Complete Unknown is out, maybe the next thing he tackles is Swamp Thing. We'll have to see. The question is, we haven't really, even when James Gunn says, oh yes, the Waller scripts, Booster Gold, they're not quite complete, he's never really mentioned Swamp Thing, so we just don't know like how far along that is. Like, is James Mangold gonna write the movie himself? Is somebody else writing it? How is it gonna fit into the DCU? Where does it land on the timeline? It's kind of in the same boat as The Authority, right, John? Because both of those we don't really get a lot of lip service for. Like, there's other projects James Gunn gets asked about and he talks about a lot more. But between The Authority and Swamp Thing, we really don't have any updates. Like, it's very, very little, and
Yeah.
to the point where the two
in
words
terms of
don't
the
know.
official ones, because we don't know
Yes,
much about Teen Titans either, but that was never official by James
that was
Gunn.
never
That was
official.
just like,
yes, exactly. Also, I have a question. How can I be a part of your group? Well, Lex, you are already a part of our group. You're part of the community. Like, you're here. We've got you in the chat, and we love to interact with everybody in the chat. But, yeah, as far as Mangold and the updates regarding Swamp Thing, I mean, it's been so barren that the biggest official update, if you want to call it, are the two words "don't know" coming straight from the man himself. So, we'll see. But that was, a little confusing because it's been quoted as he's talking about, because this is contradicting when he says, don't know, I've been just the engineer getting this train to the station. Because you're like, wait, what? In one sentence, you're saying, I have no idea. In the other one, you're like, I just got this. Like, so when you watch the video itself again, if you guys missed it earlier, he's referencing to A Complete Unknown when he says, I'm just the engineer getting this train to the station. Because as a director, like directing a movie the size of like a scale of A Complete Unknown, that's studio picture, it takes up basically your whole life for a few years. So I'm sure that that's all he's been focused on for the last couple of years. And now that the movie is coming out, he'll be able to pivot away and hopefully work on Swamp Thing. But until that happens, he doesn't know anything more than we do apparently. So we'll have to just stick with that and hope that James Gunn provides us some updates soon. But John, we do have to, of course, we have to talk about Fuck the Penguin, because more specifically, we now have some numbers from Nielsen ratings. I know we've been talking about Samba TV ratings before when the show was on air, that it was number one on Max while it was airing, and it was just performing really, really well in the charts. But now that it's been a few weeks since the finale, Nielsen ratings usually are a couple of weeks behind because they have to collect the data, aggregate it, collate it, and then they push it out. So the Nielsen ratings reports are out for November 11th to the 17th, in between which 595 million minutes of The Penguin were viewed, and then 3.8 billion minutes reviewed since its premiere. That's a big number. And that's now being reported by Nielsen, and this article in the Hollywood Reporter actually goes into a bit more detail because they talk about like what's good right now in terms of like Cross, which is starring Aldous Hodge, of course Hawkman from Black Adam.
yeah, boy.
That's number one. I'm really excited to see that show.
Duke? No, that's not Winston.
No, that's not Winston Duke. I'm really excited to see that. But then the Penguin, of course, is also on the chart. Now the thing is, they actually put. So here's the thing. It's a little misleading because the Penguin. I mean, it's in the chart, but technically, when you look at this paragraph, I'm gonna read this out here. This paragraph is the key paragraph. While Cross had a big opening, HBO's DC Comics based series, The Penguin, made its first appearance on the Nielsen charts for the week after its finale. The series had 595 million viewing minutes on Max for the week, and apparently has been landing just outside the acquired series top 10, which is the category that it qualifies for most of its run. Nielsen says The Penguin amassed 3.8 billion minutes of viewing on Max in the 8+ weeks since its premiere, plus 650 million more from linear airings on HBO. That goes to tell you just how many people watch linear television, because that's basically like, what is it, like 1/6 the number of how many people stream the show. But other than that, I mean, those are still big numbers. Then they actually put out a list here. So the top 10, when you look at it, the Penguin is technically not on there because, like they said, for the most part, it was just outside the top 10. This is the overall number. Of course, you've got movies and TV shows in there. And then when you look at the number for original series, I mean, these are, all things that are currently ongoing. So it looks like the finale of the show was just not high enough to get into the top 10, but all these other shows and, movies are out there. So having said that, however, again, the big numbers that it scored are still amazing. 595 million minutes.
Yeah.
That means, but like we were talking about it, there were like 2+ million people watching it live on HBO when it was airing, and then of course when you look at the numbers like 3 days later when everybody else who didn't check it out live, it was huge. It was the biggest series on streaming while it was airing, and it's just, again, good to see that the show had the presence that it did, and it's got award nominations now. I'm sure it's going to get Emmy nominations next year. So again, just another congratulations to the Penguin, despite the fact that he's a despicable character, and justice for Vic. Just remember to fight for justice. But it's just good to see, again, more positive news for the world that Matt Reeves is putting together. Back, as he likes to call it, the Batman epic crime saga. They should just call it the Batman crime saga. Would have been so much better. BCS, I can do BCS. I mean,
BCS is Better Call Saul, so.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's what they thought of, and they were like, no, we don't want to confuse the two. So anyway. Well, we got to talk about the Superman movie that's coming out next year. There's a few tidbits of information here. So recently, actually just yesterday, so we're doing the show live today. Just yesterday, Nicholas Hoult was on Jimmy Kimmel, and of course, Jimmy Kimmel was like, "Tell me about the Superman movie and Lex Luthor and how you're playing this character and what inspired you." And of course, James Gunn then reposted the clip. And essentially, Nicholas Hoult did his best to not give away any plot details, but he did say that, he's going to be a menacing character. He hopes he's going to be very powerful. Yeah. And James Gunn, of course, has said recently that it's not an ensemble movie. It's really focuses around,
these
Clark,
3 characters.
Exactly. Clark, Lois, and Lex Luthor, right? So which is the key here, because it's not just like it's Lois and Clark or just Clark by himself. He's saying that it's all 3 of them. So I don't know what that dynamic is going to look like. But it is interesting to see, again, that, Nicholas Hoult is just continuing to be excited, because the way he described it, he was like, I hope I'm going to be menacing, because it's like, as an actor, you did your work, but obviously he's not seen the final cut yet, so he doesn't know exactly how he comes across on camera.
I mean, so, I remember maybe it was James. I think James Gunn said this in that big interview with Josh Horowitz, where he said, like, he was very imposing. Nicholas Hoult was very imposing as Lex Luthor. He we're gonna like see like different things from him as this character that we haven't seen in other adaptations, which is like exciting. But he also has to say that, so it's not like, oh, we're just getting Gene Hackman again, or we're just getting John Shea again, we're just getting Michael Cudlitz again. So it's like, it's obviously he's not going to say that, but at the same time, so it's like, okay, we're getting a good like menacing Lex Luthor, which is like good, because out of the big screen Lex Luthors, I mean, we kind of got that with Kevin Spacey's version. Gene Hackman is very Silver Age. He's kind of silly as a character, which is the point. I mean, that's how it kind of was. It wasn't a bad performance. Gene Hackman's great, but it's like the creme de la creme in terms of, well, at least for a lot of Superman fans, is Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville.
I mean, Elite Easy is like Jesse Eisenberg, LOL. I'm like, To me, it's
okay.
underrated.
I will say
I'm
I don't
okay
mind
with,
him. I
yes.
don't mind him because
Yeah.
I thought he did like he was like the nouveau riche billionaire kind of thing. That's what they were going for. It came off as a little weird, not gonna lie. It was a little weird. However, I didn't mind it. I thought like because it's like when the facade fades, it's there. It's just like I wish he didn't have like that fucking like haircut. Like if he didn't have that haircut, it wouldn't have been as bad. I think it's just like when he can be imposing, imposing. He was he like when
The
when
whole like
he's
red capes are coming, or the when the painting is turned upside down. The
his theme in that movie was so good.
right, shoving the candy down the senators. I'm like, it's
Yeah,
just,
like
it
it's
was
very silly, but like
maniacal.
it's just like it was kind of like a half and half performance. Like half of
Yeah,
it was so fucking innately stupid, but then
yeah.
the other half was like so good. I'm like, I want
It's,
more of this. Like, give me
yes,
more of like
yeah.
him just like owning everybody in the room and being 12 steps ahead of everybody else. So, I like that, I liked that. It's just like I wish we got more of that. I mean, the
Hmm.
movie's Garbo, but like, it was
I had fun with, like, I
I
have a
enjoyed it.
higher
I mean, I
opinion
liked
of
it more than Man
BVS
of
than
Steel.
most
I
people.
mean,
Yeah,
and I'm talking about the Ultimate
but
Edition. I like that
yeah,
more. But
yeah.
like, you know,
But I just wanted to say thank you to Jose
okay,
XPI.
I'm not negative McGee. Calm down.
So, pat on the shoulder. I enjoy that. And Fiona like saying yes, that is very much the dynamic. So yes, I
All right,
agree.
fuck
By the way,
all of
we are
you.
getting we are getting a couple of more
All
comments
right,
about the
peace.
Penguin.
If I'm so negative,
Okay, all right. Well, John is taking us a little break here. But Antonio, yes, those are big numbers. I mean, and they are Netflix territory. So that, again, the Penguin
yeah,
did fantastically well. And yeah, I mean, give us more Clancy Brown anytime. Like he did. The fact that he was in the show and played a role, character that's of course significant in the world of the Batman. However, it wasn't like you could clearly tell that character wasn't one that they had plans for in the movies. But bringing in somebody like Clancy Brown is like, it's not a big presence in the show, but Clancy Brown made that character like very menacing for the amount of time that he was on screen. And there's very few actors you can bring in, like character actors, who will leave a lasting presence. Because by definition, a character actor is meant to just come in, play a role, and then you forget about them after. Clancy Brown is not that guy, but even then, he's still
I'm
the character actor.
evil.
Yeah. And then Jose asking the question, where would you rank the Penguin and the DC live action
I
TV
would
shows?
say, yeah, it's probably top
I
3, top 5.
To me is number
I
one.
haven't.
I
Thing is,
think
I
is number
haven't
one.
watched every live action show. Like, I haven't watched the George Reeves Superman. I haven't watched, like the Swamp Thing shows. I haven't watched, the new Lois and Clark. Like, I think the only ones I've seen to completion are Penguin, Superman, and Lois,
But as
and
somebody who
that's
has
it.
seen those other shows, I'll just tell you straight away, like the Penguin is the best. The Penguin is the best.
It's up there. Like I
It's
would say
like
it's up there
there's
because
no
like
other show.
I technically never finished any of the Arrowverse shows because they were all Garbo. No, those are Garbo, but I haven't. I'm like trying to think like if I've actually finished any of them, and I don't think outside of the two I mentioned. I don't think I finished any of them.
Well, you need to
But
finish a lot of them because like you're losing a lot of credibility with the folks in the chat, man. I'm just saying. Like,
um, I mean, maybe I will eventually. I mean, I know they're all on Max.
yeah.
It's just like when I was a kid, I wasn't really allowed to watch superhero stuff. Like I was super young because my parents had deemed it as violent. So it wasn't until like I kind of grew up that they allowed me to watch like Superman and Batman and all that stuff. And then I was eventually allowed to see. I think the first. I'm pretty sure. Well, the first superhero thing I was allowed to see in theaters was, I think, the second Spider-Man. But even then, it was like I saw it.
I
With
saw both of them in
and
the theater. But the first one I was so young, I was basically crying the whole time, as I'm told. Anyway.
second one, I was hiding behind my seat a lot because Doc Ock freaked me out.
Yeah.
So
Well, but those movies are iconic. I mean, the Sam Raimi movies I grew up with, that was my Spider-Man, so I was like all on board with the jokes of like, wait, it comes out of you, but like, or at least like, well, it's creepier because it comes out of Tom Holland. We actually don't know how that works, but anyway.
no,
Tobey
he has
Maguire
web
is a
shooters.
little. Does he?
So,
Or
yeah,
no, was that the? So
they
he
both
doesn't.
have web shooters. Only Tobey Maguire doesn't. Yeah,
Only
Sam
Toby? All right,
Raimi.
whatever. You know
Sam
what?
Raimi
It's fine.
streamlined that, so he's like, because
Yeah, he didn't
that
have
wouldn't
to
make
worry about it.
sense.
Yeah,
It totally
that
makes
makes
sense. It's
sense.
fine.
Yeah. So I
But
will
then it was
still.
like, so
Yeah.
does it come out of other places? No,
Yeah.
just the wrists.
Sure. By the way, guys, hit that like button while you're here. That really does help us
Yeah.
out. We'd love to, get this show out in front of more, people. As you guys are enjoying it, hopefully there's other folks out there who will too. But yeah, I mean, the rating that Hosea shared with us was, or their top three were Peacemaker, The Penguin, and Superman and Lois in no particular order. I think that top three pretty much is objectively, at least, a good choice. Like, most people, again, whichever order you put it in is subjective, but I think from a standpoint of like well-made TV shows, Peacemaker and The Penguin are definitely two of the best, and Superman and Lois probably is the best of like the ones from broadcast television, certainly the CW era. So yeah, I would agree with you there. Some people might say the Arrow or like maybe the early parts of the Flash, but like you can't really
I've
only
seen
take the first few seasons and
Constantine
not see
from
the rest
beginning to
ones.
end, but that's only because it got canceled after
Yeah.
one
I mean, you
season.
know what though? Like maybe what was the why am I
Krypton
forgetting?
was another one I
Krypton.
watched all the way
Krypton
through.
was good. I have
That
to
was
finish the
great.
second season. That was a really good show. It got better
Aaron
as it
Pierre,
went.
there you
He
go,
was
our
in
new Jon
he was
Stewart
in
in
there.
that show.
What was that show? What was the Neil Gaiman show on Netflix? That's a DC show, right?
Sandman.
Sandman. Like, I don't know if that's a top three. Maybe it's a little too niche to be up there.
Stargirl. That was another one I finished. I would say, okay,
yeah.
if I had to say top three, I would say Penguin. I would say Penguin, Stargirl, and Superman and Lois are probably top three. I would say those are probably.
For some reason, Elite Easy is hissing at us in the chat, so I'll just hiss back. I don't know what that is.
Hiss, motherfucker. All right. iZombie and Lucifer, if those count, those were great.
Yeah,
those are really good.
For Hosea, it's like Smallville special mention. Magical Sky Wizard said I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the way. I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it was up and down. I watched it all the way through, and I definitely like shed a tear or two in the series finale. I just wish that they tied it more directly to the MCU. It just felt like after season 5 they sort of gave up on that idea and sort of went in their own direction. And yet they were still somehow loosely tied into when the snap happens and all that stuff. So Kevin Feige has never really embraced the show. But anyway, Magical Sky was just like, it really grows on you. Yeah, I mean the show ran for like 8 or 10 years. It's like practically as long as the Star Trek: The Next Generation did. So yeah, I mean it had its moments. It had its moments, and plus Clark Gregg and Ming-Na Wen as like the two leads, and like Chloe Bennett, and then the rest of the cast kind of rotated. They did a pretty good job overall. I think that was good. But yes, the Sandman spinoff, the Dead Boy Detectives. Didn't that show get canceled?
It did get canceled.
It did cancel. Yeah, I don't know if it was all that good.
Like it was fine.
Yeah. You know what I will say though? One of the top three. Okay. You know what? My top three is this. My top three DC shows of all time is The Penguin, number 1, and then Peacemaker, number 2, and then Doom Patrol, number 3. Or actually, I'm gonna put Doom Patrol number 2 and Peacemaker number 3. For me, that's the top.
The thing is, I haven't finished Doom Patrol yet, so I feel like I can't judge yet. But I'm going to eventually. I would say, top 3 probably Penguin, Penguin, Stargirl, and Superman and Lois. I would say, iZombie is up there. Lucifer, if those count. If they don't count, then I obviously don't count them. But
iZombie, I don't think anybody counts them. They didn't even get to take part in like the whole Crisis on Infinite Earth.
No, but I mean it was a very strange Vertigo thing. It's very in its own thing, which is good. But it was such a great show. Like it was great for all 5 seasons. A little bit of a rushed ending, but it was still good. Yeah. I mean, Swamp Thing was amazing. Honestly, that might be top 5. Even though it got canceled.
Even it was the one season, it was really good. I mean, which is why we were waiting for that movie, because we hope that James Mangold can give it like the big picture treatment that it deserves. The Watcher, by the way, joining us, and he's already dropping us like his pick.
Black Lightning, that was another good one I liked.
Yes.
It's not top 5, but that's one of the few other ones I finished.
Yeah, and by the way, Cloak and Dagger is Marvel Elite Easy. He caught his mistake, but it's okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
well, in terms of Marvel, Cloak and Dagger is definitely up there. I mean, Daredevil, Legion, The
Oh, Legion
Gifted.
is unprecedented. It's the best one.
Legion is the
Legion is
best.
number one.
Like
It's
that.
not even
That's
close. It's
nothing
not even
has ever
close.
been or will ever be as great as Legion. That will forever be the greatest comic book show of all time, and nothing will like as much as I love Daredevil. Season
Hmm.
2 definitely brought it down because the first 4 episodes of season 2 were like really good. The rest was kind of garbo. Um, but well, not garbo, but it was like not nearly as good. But 1 and 3 were excellent. But like Legion, all 3 seasons were just amazing,
It's
amazing television.
the first season was such a just slap to the
Like
face.
that's why I
Every
was like,
episode,
give me
it
more
was an
Navi
event.
Nagaban, please. For the
Yes,
love of fucking God. Give that man everything because that was Navi Nagaban in that show was so that's one
he
of the
was so
greatest
good. He was so
performances
good.
in television history, easily.
And
That
it's like
was
just
just
when you thought that
amazing.
season one was like about as crazy as a TV show could get, I just remember season two starts and all of a sudden they take things to the next level. And I just remember trying. There were episodes of Legion where I watched the show and then after that I was like, I think I need to read an article because somebody needs to explain to me what exactly I just saw. Like literally my brain would couldn't like understand. It's crazy. If you guys have seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go find it. It's on Hulu. Dan Stevens, very underrated. He deserves to be in one of the big cinematic universes. I hope DC gets a hold of him and gives him something to do because he did a wonderful job with Legion. But anyway, Spider-Man Noir. I mean, it looks good, but it is a Sony Marvel thing, so fingers crossed, and we'll see. But guys, let's get back to the news, shall we? So we were talking
Sorry.
about before we got. No, but it's good. You guys have so many good options. Jessica Jones, the Defenders, like the Watchers, dropping the other Marvel shows that he would add into the list. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, Kevin Feige wants all of the Defenders back. So we'll see, if any of those other shows get new seasons as well in the MCU alongside Daredevil. But or they'll cross over with Daredevil next year when that starts coming out in March. But right now we're gonna switch back over to the Superman news. So of course we haven't had an official poster for Superman come out yet, but we do every once in a while get like these fan art posters, and every once in a while James Gunn will go in or like he gets tagged in one and he says, oh, you know what, that does look pretty nice, because I can imagine he looks at them and says, oh, you know what, that's a pretty good design. I'm gonna send that to my team and see if they can whip up something similar to it or keep it in mind as reference for maybe something official down the road. Or if they decide to license it from one of these artists, it has happened before, right? Like that's how what's his name, Deviant Art, or like or like is a place, like there's been a couple of artists who have basically gotten popular off doing fan posters, and then a studio hired them to do the actual poster. So when you look at this one, John, what are your thoughts? Do you think this is a poster that would be worthy of the movie itself? Because to me, it just kind of screams like the essential metropolis that James Gunn has been
It's
talking about.
very minimalist.
Yeah.
I can see it working, but like it would have to be like given that like realistic zhuzh, like have like an actual
Maybe like an
cityscape.
alternate poster. Like this is like artwork. You
Like
could
this would be
actually,
yeah. This would be like I could see
yeah,
this being like an alternate poster, like a something like that. Like it's available as like a comic insert,
yeah,
like
yes,
that
yeah.
Superman comic that month that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean
I could
James
see
Gunn said
them.
great job, so I'm like he's already got the seal of approval. He can practically sell this thing already. Be like, James Gunn signed off on
Yeah,
it.
but I would love to see like a
Yeah.
realistic version, like having like the actual Metropolis
Hmm.
cityscape, like actually David Corrin sweat,
Right.
maybe like an actual like maybe not an actual diamond, but like the shape of it, and
Hmm.
then like not have it like just be one color and minimalist. I like because I
Right.
could see something like that being the actual
But this could be a great
poster.
collectible. Like you go to like the AMC and
Yeah,
that's the collectible you get at a fan event.
yeah, that
I
too, or
could see
yeah, something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. And you know what? You got the official seal of approval from James Gunn. So congratulations, Ariane Arts. That's a poster that's worth holding on to. Now let's keep on going here with more Superman news. Of course, James Gunn keeps getting asked about what about the music? What are Superman gonna get a new theme? Like, of course we've got the iconic one from John Williams. You've got the iconic one from Hans Zimmer. But are we, gonna get a new one? People have been speculating. Are we just gonna go back and redo or remix like one of the iconic ones, whether it's John Williams and or the Hans Zimmer ones from Man of Steel? or will we get an original theme like what we got from Michael Giacchino for the Batman? And John Murphy is, the person working on the score for this movie, much like he has for a lot of other James Gunn movies recently, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So, as you can see on the screen there, James Gunn was asked, has he been writing the score for the movie, and like where is that at? And he just said John Murphy has been writing the score for well over a year. I know we have talked about this before, John, because
Yeah.
James Gunn even mentioned that he was playing some of the elements of the score on
Hmm.
set while they were filming the movie, and so it kind of puts them in that headspace. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this again? Because to me that means that they're a little bit ahead of the game here, because by the time it comes down to scoring the film, once you get the picture lock, which means the film is done editing, and then you get into the scoring part of the process, which usually happens pretty close to the release date. So I
Hmm.
guarantee you that's not happened yet. That's probably still yet to happen. But certain key arrangements like the new Superman theme, you probably already have ready to go. What are your thoughts on this? Again, do you feel like we're gonna maybe get a sneak peek of that even in the first trailer, possibly?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would think so. I would hope so. But yeah, I remember us talking about that, how it was essentially, oh, I was playing it on set while we were filming and all that. So I think that's really cool. We should be getting that in the trailers, and I bet it's a great score. He's a great composer. So, um, yeah, I don't remember a ton of them, but I remember, well, speaking of with 28 Years Later coming out, his 28 Days Later soundtrack and his Sunshine, his Danny Boyle soundtracks were really good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very good and very memorable. I would have to, I mean, I think with the Guardians movies, they're more traditional and not very memorable because it's more about like the pop hits that are in those
Mm-hmm.
movies, because they're about like it ties into Star-Lord's character. So
Right.
I feel like that's gonna, feed
Well,
into it.
yeah, like the only original composition in that movie was like the Guardians theme, like it's like the fanfare, like in the third act when they're like combining forces with the Nova Corps and stuff. But yeah, you're right.
Mm.
That movie wasn't really like, I think even the second and the third movies weren't really known for that. They always were more soundtrack heavy than they were score heavy. But yes, like, I agree with you, Elite Easy. We should have a brand new one, not something that's sort of like a riff on one of the two other ones that we've gotten in the past. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting and fun, and I'm looking forward to it. The fact that John Murphy's already been working on it for a year must mean that he's
Hmm.
got something good. Obviously, it's good enough that James Gunn, was willing to play it for the cast and the crew while they were on set filming. So I'm hoping that we get at least a couple of notes from it in the teaser trailer, so that we can get a feel for it. Sort of like with Michael Giacchino's Batman music that we got a little bit of in like the suit reveal when that video came out initially, and people were like, "Oh my God, this looks amazing!" And that really set off the marketing campaign for that movie on the right foot. And if they're gonna do the Summer of Superman, then they need to kind of take that Batman playbook and kind of repeat that success. And so I'm looking forward to, like, again, hearing what that sounds like, what the
Hmm.
score and
Definitely.
particularly Superman's theme, David Cornsweat's Superman theme looks and sounds like. But with that said, let's keep the ball rolling. We now have to move on to our main stories. That we have two of them today. Back to the whole hand signs. So John, let's talk about Clayface, shall we? Yesterday we had the breaking news.
3, 2, 1, let's
Three,
go.
two, one. Yes, there we go.
Boop,
Okay.
boop, boop.
So we had the breaking news while we were doing the show live, which was that the Clayface movie has been greenlit. Again, James Gunn has not commented on this. The article that we were reading, was sourced by through somebody. I think it was Deadline maybe that broke it, or the Hollywood Reporter. I think it was the Hollywood Reporter. But
Actually,
they
it might have
said
been
that,
Variety.
was it Variety? Okay, so I guess it was Variety.
It was
No, you
one
were
of the
right.
three. Like,
It
it's
was. I
usually
think
one
you
of
were right. I
those.
think it was Variety, and they said that their source is very close to the project, so they're like, it's pretty much like this is the right information. But officially, they didn't get any comments from DC Studios, so it's not like James Gunn has said this is the thing that he's greenlit, that he can't tell us about.
Yeah, I
So
don't
we
think
don't
that's
know
the
yet
case.
if this is what that is. However, we do know that this is now in the works. So
Hmm.
since we kind of I didn't get to spend as much time on it yesterday because we had so many other things to talk about, I wanted to kind of come back and also there's some follow-up questions that we had, right? Things like, okay, so we know Flanagan wrote the script and we know that now it's officially greenlit at DC Studios and they're working on it, but we don't know, for example, like Angelica asked earlier, so she was asking about like who is going to be the director for this, like maybe is it Guillermo del Toro or like that. Those were some of the, a couple of the names that she pitched. Let's see, she said maybe Guillermo del Toro or potentially what was the other name? Angelica.
Sam
I
Raimi.
lost Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi. Okay, so which could be two good names for it. But we also know that this is going to start filming next year. So before we even get to the names of the potential directors, John, do you
Hmm.
think we already have a director? Like, do you think Mike Flanagan's going to direct this? Like, because if they can start
No,
filming
well,
next
they already
year,
said he can't because he's
you know,
doing what's he doing right now? He's doing
Harry is he's
it's
working
either
on,
Harry. Well, I know
yeah.
he's doing Life of Chuck, and I think although I think that's done filming now. I think he's about to do no, he's about to do The Exorcist. That's going to be what he's going to be directing next. So he's
Oh,
going to be
Dark
writing
Tower,
it.
Magical Sky Wizard saying. Is that it?
Um, yeah, it's Exorcist. Then it was because what originally was going to be the case um what originally was going to be the case was it's going to be a sequel to the David Gordon Green. He had like a trilogy or whatever, and then Exorcist Believer sucked donkey dicks. So that got, and then Exorcist Deceiver and whatever his third Exorcist movie was going to be was then shit canned. And then they're like, okay, we paid fucking $400 million for these rights. All right, Mike Flanagan, cure cancer with this shit. You get it. And we're like, okay, let's see. So he's going to be writing and directing that next. And then he also has Dark Tower and Carrie on the docket. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see. So it's he because he wrote this back in like 2021 and then he posted a tweet about it last year where he's like, I pitched this and they said no. And it looks like now it seems to be confirmed that he's going to be doing it now, that it's just writing it. But
Well, this article on Deadline kind of gives us a bit more, few more details. So, because they kind of like tacked onto the Variety piece of news, because all these, outlets have connections in the studios. So they said that this is kind of based on the script that, and the pitch that, like you said, Mike Flanagan had back a few years ago as a horror thriller tragedy. And then the key details are a little further down here. Um, he did not pitch this as part of Matt Reeves' DC,
no,
DC universe, the Batman, the Bex, essentially. But there's been rumors going around, according to the sources here in the Deadline article, that we are going to get a Clayface in the Batman 2. So that to me would be like, does that mean that this Clayface is not that Clayface? Like, because that seems to be the implication that this might be completely, like Watcher was
okay.
saying, a standalone, like separate from both of the universes
So
at DC.
I still think it's going to be an Elseworld story. I think it's going to be separate. However, what I can see, I'm seeing it from a business point of view.
Yeah.
Man of logic here. So the Batman Part 2 gets delayed for another year. We were supposed to get it next October. Now we're getting it October 2026. So my feeling is they had this in their back pocket. They're like, okay, Mike Flanagan pitched this to us last year. And then we said no. Now James Gunn was like, okay, now we have the, or Peter Safran. Now we have this. This great director that, a lot of people seem to love pitch this standalone movie. And we just did the standalone show
Yeah.
about the Penguin that's been
I
getting
mean, and
critical
dude,
acclaim.
there's already a Clayface in Creature Commandos, hence the DCU. So there's also
Yes.
that.
So I think that they're like, okay, we have this Clayface movie. And they're like, yo, Mike Flanagan, we know you can't direct it because you're directing the Exorcist movie right
Mm-hmm.
now. He's like, yep. So what if we take this script of yours that you pitched as an Elseworld? So, okay. And either he would do necessary rewrites or get somebody else to do necessary rewrites and make it part of the Matt Reeves universe and have that be the movie that comes out this upcoming October because it's a horror movie. It doesn't
I
need a
don't think
ton of.
there's any way to spin that as a positive though. There's no
Here's the
way
or
that you
or
wouldn't get a
or
ton of
or
backlash. Because here's the thing. I understand your point. If you do that though from a PR perspective, what you're doing is you're setting up Clayface to fail because
here.
so many people will be disappointed that the Batman got delayed again that they will then take that frustration out, at least from their expectation
Yeah,
standpoint.
I'm
Oh,
just
they moved
saying.
that back to give us a Clayface movie. I'm just saying, like a lot,
I'm
the
just saying
general
as like
audiences
I'm
won't
I'm
be in
trying to
favor of
spin it
it.
as like a maybe like a
Yeah.
business point of view. Like, okay, people are set. I can see that happening. However, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I still think it's an Elseworld story. I don't think it's a DCU thing. They could make it a DCU thing. I don't think it's a DCU thing. I think it's an Elseworld thing. So
Yeah.
that's what I think. We're gonna
Yeah,
be sticking with that.
yeah.
So
I
that's
do
what I
worry
think.
though, like is the world ready for three different clay faces at the same time?
Well,
Especially
who
if
are?
it is
Well, I
true that
mean,
we
we
get
have
him
the.
in the
Well, I
Batman
mean,
too.
technically, two of them are voiced by the same guy, so it's not like that big of a deal. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and Elite Easy is like now let's do three Jokers and we can do the. I mean,
The
did we
three
already do three
Jokers.
Jokers? Well, not the actual story three Jokers, but anyway, I see what you're saying, Elite Easy. But John, getting back to the question that Angelica had earlier in the chat, um, they are looking for a director. Who do you think? Do you think that the two names that she pitched between Guillermo del Toro and Sam Raimi are two good picks, or would you prefer somebody else? I mean, those are two huge names,
I
no
mean,
less.
yes, but
So
Guillermo del Toro is currently filming Frankenstein right now,
ex-
so I don't think that's the
exactly,
case.
he's gonna be tied
Sam
up.
Raimi, I don't think so. I don't think so because he was considered to do Secret Wars or Doomsday, but now the Russo brothers are doing that, and I don't think he might come back for Doctor Strange 3, but since Doctor Strange 3 doesn't have a release date, I don't think that's the case. So I think he's freed up to do whatever he wants at this point.
Yeah,
So yeah, I could see Sam Raimi doing it. That I think that could be really cool, but someone like that, someone who could like do that horror stuff, that kind of body horror kind of thing. But yeah, I think both of those are great picks. I think I could see Sam Raimi a little bit more. I would love to see him do something a little bit more, a little bit darker, a little bit more tragic, kind of like A Simple Plan or something, or The Gift, or something
yeah,
like that, where it's a lot darker and less like the Evil Dead movies. Don't get me wrong, I love the Evil Dead movies, but just something more into like darkly tragic. And I think Sam Raimi could do that if he didn't just go totally insane with it. So I think
yeah,
he could do like a deeper personal story if he kind of put his mind to it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also you see here that there won't be a villain in the movie because the way that Mike Flanagan pitched it, it's just meant to be like a character study almost on Clayface himself, which would be interesting to see. It's kind of like closer to what we had in the Joker, even though you could say Robert De Niro's character was sort of the villain of that movie, except that not really, but like yeah. So maybe it feels like that's what they're doing, and if indeed that's the template here, then yeah, maybe this is kind of like the Joker movie, right? Like where they just let like what they did with Todd Phillips. I mean, they didn't have any confidence in him for the first one, and then they gave him way too much money for the second one. But maybe if this is a standalone all by itself, then hopefully it could be like another Elseworlds banner project, which yeah, this would kind of again help to kind of prop up that part of the DC brand because so far all we have now that Joker Folie à Deux is done is really the Batman epic crime saga as far as Elseworlds goes. So
Hmm.
now, of course, the other thing I wanted to quickly ask you because I think we're gonna probably do a proper fan casting for this later, but since Alan Tudyk is voicing Clayface in the Harley Quinn show and Creature Commandos, do you think that he should also play a live action version of Clayface? Do you think he has the ability? Does he fit the profile of the character? Do you think it would be a perfect fit? Or do you just think that, voicing Clayface is one thing, playing him in live action is completely
I
different?
mean, the man can do no wrong. He could do anything. Like it's I just without a doubt he could do it. But I would like for this to be separate. I think they could get I think honestly, I know he's kind of a little bit typecast as villains, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see James McAvoy in the role. That would be really awesome. Well, Andy Muschietti's doing Batman, so I don't think he would do something else. Plus, he's working on Welcome to Derry right now, so I don't think he would do that. But I mean, I could see him too. Just like fucking try to focus on the it side rather than the Flash side, please, Andy Muschietti. But I think
Yeah, Easy wants it to be like a body horror movie. So yeah,
yeah, that
I
would be
mean,
awesome. And
yeah.
David Cronenberg is too busy, so you can't
Yeah.
get the guy. You could get like you could get like Joe Lynch or Corley Farragut to do that as
Mhm.
well. I think both of them could do it. But I think they might would want more free reign than like be part of a studio production. So there is that as well. But both of them have done good body horror. Like Corley Farragut just got nominated for a Golden Globe for The Substance. Joe Lynch did the movie Suitable Flesh, which is also very like Lovecraftian and kind of body horror. So I think both of them can do it very well. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but I think both of them. Well, that was very golden age, by the way. I mean, it like whoever they get, I think they would do a good job. Just make sure to don't just get like fucking like I don't know, just like Jerry Seinfeld to do it or something like that.
I don't think they're gonna go that route. But I mean, as far as like Alan Tudyk probably maybe playing the role, I think he can pull it off. Quite frankly, you don't need this character, especially if it's its own standalone story. You're not like trying to, I don't know, do a whole cinematic universe worth of film. So age wouldn't be a concern. He's got the acting chops, the ability, and of course he's got the star power as well to carry the movie if that came down to it. Even though he mostly hangs out in the TV world these days, certainly enough people know about him, and then he's talented enough of an actor to be able to pull this off. So I would love to see it. I think we should probably at some point, now that we know this is happening, we will do like a proper fan casting. Let's see what other characters might be in there, who can be our Clayface. But Alan Tudyk would be a perfectly good option and choice. So let us know in the comments down below who you think, guys. Do you think should play Clayface in this new movie that Mike Flanagan is writing but not directing? Maybe you have some good names for who's going to direct it too. So let us know in the comments down below. Of course, we now have to move on and talk about what's the big story of the day. It's been almost a full day now since the episode dropped. You guys must have seen it last night if you stayed up late. If you're in the U.S., that is. I know John probably stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch it,
I
or maybe
just
you
said
saw it
that.
during the day. I wasn't listening to you, John. I was chatting with the folks in the live chat.
I
So
mentioned it like fucking 30 minutes ago. Like, come on.
I'm sorry, man. Like, things
You
happen.
should be.
It is whatever. But anyway, episode 3, GI Robot and his story and then some. So a lot happened in this episode. The Watcher already pointed out a couple of Easter eggs for us. We will get into that, but I wanted to kind of start off with just getting your thoughts on episode 3. What did
Yeah.
you think about it overall? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? James Gunn has been promoting the heck out of it. So just give me your initial thoughts, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the episode.
I thought it was I think it's like it's one of those shows that just keeps getting better and better. I thought this was better than the 2 previous episodes. Had less fucked up shit in it, and that's saying something because there was a lot of Nazis in this one. But it's better than fucking necrophilia and grooming, so we're getting there. But next we have child murder apparently in the next episode, so there's that. But GI Robot, like Sean Gunn is just like perfect in this fucking role. Just the way it's like he managed to like perfectly ride the line of like robot with like little emotion, but like clearly there's some feelings there. Like he clearly has some sort of sentience and emotional spectrum to him. And I love seeing Easy Company. We got Wildman, Bulldozer, Little Sure Shot. We got all those guys. That was I knew like a bunch of them because I did Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. I researched them a while ago, so it was nice to see a bunch of those. But that was awesome, and I liked the backstory with Sam, played by Michael Rooker, and just GI Robot just annihilating. I'm like, how did a fucking robot get arrested? Well, we know why now. And hero, true American hero. Now we just need him like going around doing that because we really need that. We need that, all of us. Heartbreak feels good in a place like this. But I think this was definitely I liked the relationship between Nina and oh my god, yes. And G.I. Robot, and just like he died doing what he loved, and that's okay. It was tragic,
Whoa,
but
whoa! Spoiler alert, dude. Okay, all right, okay. I
well,
guess
I mean, I
I'm
think that
just
should
saying,
be,
like, it's Jose hasn't started watching it yet, so. But anyway,
I'm just saying, man. We've given spoiler warnings. Like, come on now.
okay, fair
But
enough.
yeah, he does die. But I mean, they'll probably rebuild him. I mean, he does have the 2 on his helmet, so maybe he.
I guarantee you, he's coming back. It's a
Oh
it's
yeah,
a freaking robot. Like, come on now. Like R2D2 didn't die when he got damaged. Like they just
yeah.
yeah.
But I assume they'll probably get Will Magnus, because Will Magnus, I think some incarnations, he makes himself into a robot. He just looks human. So I can imagine that he put his consciousness into, see, it's fine. Consciousness into like a robot body, and it looks forever young. So there's some way to like, because if they do bring the Metal Men into this, well, you can fucking pirate it. Like, goddamn.
Hi, Lenny.
They probably will bring the Metal Men into this, and they're not the Metal Men without Will Magnus, so I feel like they're gonna do that in order to make him like forever young, because he was like young in like the 60s, and since this takes place like 60 years later, I don't think they're gonna make him all old and shit. So I feel like he'll be an age, and it'll reveal that he is an automaton, and I think they'll definitely do that. But yeah, I liked the flashback stuff. It's hard to, it's hard because it's hard to love the show sometimes, because it's like I want to see both, but it's like, why the fuck are you making it 22 minutes? Like, make it half an hour, make it 35 minutes, so you have enough time for all these flashbacks, but also enough time to forward the story, because like I want to see the story, and it feels like we're getting very little of the main story. It's still a great episode. It's just like maybe it's just like the power of how good it is. Like, I want to see more. I want to see more, because there is the line of like, okay, is this paced properly, or is it just that good that I want to see more of it? So there is.
I'm getting the
that.
vibes that it's the latter, like that it's so good that you're just left wanting more at the end.
I know, but it's just like I feel weird. It's like 20. I understand your theory that maybe they want to put this on television, syndicated television.
That wasn't my theory. No, I mean it's yes, but it's
that
also
might be
the
the
pacing
case,
of an animated show. You can't really do hour-long animated show episodes because
No, I
you
know.
have to write it very differently. Like it's
I just think it's overall a really good show. We got a little bit, unfortunately no sex or boobies, but I mean we did get a lot of feet this episode, which kind of grossed me out. But guys, stop with like I know it's animated feet,
Lenny
but like, guys,
prefers
calm
the
down.
pacing of Justice League Unlimited. That show was very well paced.
Well, I mean,
But
that was
also,
episodic. That wasn't
it
like
was
one
so episodic.
long,
Exactly, it's not the same thing
like
though.
story. But like that's understandable. Like I kind of miss episodic television. Like bring back episodic television. But I think that it was still a great episode. Like I love seeing G.I. Robot. I love seeing him. Yep, iron, lead, copper, platinum. Or no, there was no copper. No, it was I don't think there was copper. I think it was somebody else. I don't think it was copper. But yeah. Hello, Ron. But yeah, like I'm stoked for the Metal Men. I hope that that's the project that James Gunn has been teasing, because I'd love to see the Metal Men. He even, we'll even get to his thoughts on Metal Men later on. We got more of that apocalyptic vision that everyone was fucking complaining about the past couple weeks.
Dude,
but
count the characters. Now you've got Wonder Woman in there. You got
Wonder Woman. You got Hawkgirl,
Robin. There's Booster Gold in the back.
Yeah, okay, so that's Booster Gold. Yep. I guess that was Robin. I didn't get a good look at him, but now I can see it.
That's
Who's
Robin.
all the way to the left?
That's Supergirl, I think.
Is that Supergirl?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, that's what most people think it is.
I mean, I can see that. But I mean, we saw Peacemaker. We saw, we saw like I think it was presumably Starfire, and I think maybe Mr. Terrific, and then we also saw Superman on the cross, and people.
And then Peacemaker was like on the floor, yeah.
Yeah, and people were all like heebie-jeebie about it. because it's just like we're never gonna get away from the Christ symbolism. Like I understand it's annoying, but like calm down, guys. Um, but yeah, I thought this was another great episode. I thought it
I
was
mean,
even
you
better
also had
than
the
the last
Cadmus
two.
arc, like they're mentioned. I think Elite Easy's mentioning in the chat. So
Yeah. And also I would just like to, Mercury. Yeah, I didn't think it was copper. Thank you, Watcher. Yes, it was Mercury. But I would just like to say I totally called that James Gunn was gonna go with the swimsuit Wonder Woman outfit. I'm just saying, I knew we wouldn't get the Warrior skirt. Our boy loves
I
Justice League and
mean,
Justice League Unlimited, and he likes that classic Linda Carter suit. So I'm just saying, I fucking called that. So, but even then, I think overall this was a great episode. We got to see some kick ass. Although, I'm still curious what happened with the bride's arms because we didn't see them this episode. I'm like, is that going to be a factor? Like with her, wacky wavy inflatable arm flailing 2-man arms. Um, I love like GI Robot just carrying the bathtub with Nina Mazursky in it, and it's like she can't do anything. She's just kind of like, I need my suit. Hello, and then Alexi brings it to her and all that. But that was no, not Alexi, but one of the other guards. But it's just like I love the fact like a fucking army, like a government sanctioned army with laser cannons are getting yeeted by incels with machine guns. Like, all right. I know that they're probably super powered by Cersei, but like, guys, come on. This is getting a little bit unrealistic. But I do like the flashbacks and I like the main story. GI Robot was definitely a great character. I feel like we're gonna get more of him. I feel like they're gonna bring Will Magnus back in and rebuild him, make him better, stronger, faster. Anyway, but I think that would be a lot of fun. I think I think we're gonna get that. But next up, we have more spoilers, I guess. Is we're gonna get Weasel in the next episode. We're gonna get a Weasel focused episode, even though he can't talk. But maybe, but
I agree
I
with
mean,
that assessment. By the way,
here's the
I
thing
think
though. Look at
I prefer
Superman.
that.
Look at Superman though. That's almost exactly like the photos we've gotten in the main like movie. So Linda Carter, no, Linda Carter didn't use a sword. I think maybe in the animated series she used a sword, but I don't think she did.
I don't know. I think you're right. I don't think she did.
Because that was mainly introduced in the New 52 as they gave her a sword and shield, but she mainly just had the lasso for years. I'm sure she picked up a sword time and time again in the comics, but I think that was mainly like a New 52 kind of thing. And I like that, but I feel like the way I view my Wonder Woman, that what I prefer is like she's such an amazing like hand-to-hand combat fighter that like any weapon in her hands would diminish her power. I feel like having a sword and shield would like diminish the power she has in the palm of her hands, and that she needs like
Thank you, Lenny.
um her fists, her hands are like her best weapons, and a sword and shield would diminish that. And then sometimes she uses her lasso. So I think I prefer that. Like it's just having a sword and shield is kind of boring because so many other characters have a sword and shield, but like Wonder Woman, I feel like has to be unique. She's the part of the Trinity. So I liked the animal vegetable mineral man. That was great. We saw a little bit of him in Doom Patrol as a running joke. But it was great to see him here. But yeah, GI Robot's episode was pretty fucking awesome. Not gonna lie. I just like everything worked. Like I was like grinning from ear to ear. I felt it was so fun. I liked the flashbacks. It's been a while since GI Robot sent Nazis back to hell, and I just love like there's the human element of GI Robot because it's just like I like that. I like that idea, like because there's multiple different ways you could do robots, and that's fine. Like I'm not saying like other robots are bad or anything like that, but I like how they brought the humanist, and even in this image, you can see like it looks like GI Robot's crying, just like the way the angle of his. I think it's just kind of rusted, but it looks like he's crying, and I feel like that was on purpose. Just the way his design is, I like that a lot. but I think that this was definitely the best episode so far. Um I really liked, like, I feel like every decision here was the right one. I'm really curious about the Weasel episode. Linda Cardellini coming in, just it's just funny to me, as her as his fucking lawyer. That's just great. So the whole he killed 27 children thing is like, okay, is that actually correct? So that's an interesting way of doing it. But yeah, overall great episode. And I think that we're getting there. We're getting there, because me and Liz talked about last time how it was like, okay, it has a bit of a rough start, but let's see. The Brides episode was good, had a lot of weird elements, but I feel like I liked a lot of the stuff with GI Robot. But all the other things, you had the Princess Alana thing, and, like, Cersei getting, well, not Comrade, because I think, he would have the same opinions about those fucking dirty commies. So, just saying, he's is my friend and soldier, not comrade. Get that commie shit out of here. But even then, and then, the actual progression, like, we finally saw some of those fucking sons of Themysciras fucking finally die, and it's just like, oh, thank God. And yeah, but overall, great episode. I don't really know what else to say, but I mean, it's 22 minutes of epicness, and Sean Gunn did such a great job. And yeah, Sean Gunn's getting 2 episodes in a row, because he's doing the stuff for Weasel, the like all the fucking weird ass noises, like D. Bradley Baker or something like that. But yeah, but that was great. Yes, I can't believe, Jesus Christ, Lenny, thank you. I almost completely forgot about that. That was fucking awesome. I just love how, like, Cersei turns and he's just like, and, like, he, like, runs up there and just like, just fucking, like, just goes full wild animal, and he's just like, ah! That was really funny. And then you had Dr. Phosphorus just going, just fucking, it's just like, that was great. I don't know if he's creepy. He looked kind of funny here, but I guess, like, if that's in live action, he would definitely look creepier. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm curious how they're gonna make that character. I hopefully, like, through the decades, despite him being a creep against the bride, like, maybe he matured. He needs to be put back together first. Humpty Dumpty needs to be put back together again, and then he'll get a hug, hopefully from Nina, because they're besties now. So yeah, I remember saying G.I. Robot's kind of the Groot of the group. I can see that. Nina Mazursky is well, if that's the case, if that's kind of grain of salt territory, but so yeah, Nina Mazursky is definitely the rat catcher. The bride is Gamora. Frankenstein is Star Lord. Weasel is kind of Rocket Raccoon a little bit, but without sentience. And then who else is on the Dr. Phosphorus? I don't really know. Can't really see. He has a stalker, Frank Spiegel. Yeah. Oh God, it was great to see Easy Company. That was awesome. Yeah, obviously. I'm just saying, like, if they were, I think it would be much creepier, because I didn't find him to be much all that creepy. Plus, it was like a blink and you'll miss it cameo, so there is that as well. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Guys, keep commenting. Oh, I don't think Sergeant Rock is happening. Yeah, it's a yeah, okay, Elite Easy, calm down. But yeah, I like the gore. I like the rate. It feels like yeah, it's it could be a waste, could be not, but I don't know. It just it depends what he wants to do. Whatever he has planned, I'm sure he has plans on top of plans on top of plans.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is fun show. And
John, I did want to ask you quick though. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the whole like his approach to killing off characters, it's obviously he's mentioned that these won't be happy endings. Not all these guys are good guys. But do you think that this means now that obviously we got the first big, death of the series so far with GI Robot, which they'll probably will rebuild him back up, and then he'll be back as like GI Robot 3. So, do you think this means that now moving forward we're gonna get more character deaths? Like, is Weasel gonna bite the dust?
I could see Weasel biting the bullet because he's barely a sentient being. So like he's pretty much just an animal that looks like a man. I could see him dying. I could see who else is on the team?
By the way, you were asking for things to talk about. I think Ron has something he's asking you. Who's sexier, Batman or Superman, John?
Depends who's playing them.
Depends on who's playing. Okay, all right. Depends on who's playing him. I think that's fair.
Because if it's George Clooney, Batman, but if it's like Henry Cavill, Superman.
Okay, but what if it was George Clooney, Batman, and Henry Cavill, Superman? Because imagine there is a world, there is a timeline where George Clooney came back not only in The Flash, but he stuck around to be the Batman of the DCEU after like the whole reboot thing, and then Henry Cavill came back as Superman. Now imagine if they were on screen together. Then you had to decide, like, would you be able to pick one?
Henry Cavill. Like,
Henry
Cavill. If we're going through all,
you're just like he's a lot younger. I'll get a few more years out of him.
I can't say much about.
But he doesn't have as much money as George Clooney does. But then again, George Clooney's already spoken for, so that's a little complicated. Like I don't know how that would work. But
I think like. I can't speak for the film serials like Kirk Allen and Lewis Wilson and Robert Lowry. I can't speak for them. But if we're going through all the live action Batman, Adam West, pure raw sex appeal, that man can just drowning in fucking pussy. Easily. Right, he's just as much as Frank Grillo. Adam West, most definitely sexiest dude. I mean, one of the sexiest Batman.
Okay, Adam West had sex appeal in the 70s. He does not have sex appeal.
He has more sex appeal as a corpse than most men do now. But like, I'm just first off. Second, we're going to Michael Keaton. He's okay, not really sexy. Then we have Val Kilmer. I think 90s Val Kilmer
Michael
had some
Keaton
sex appeal.
An appeal.
He has some sex appeal. George Clooney, easily sexiest Batman. Like that's like, no question.
Magical Sky Wizard says Batman is canonically sexier. And I don't even know how that works, but okay.
Okay. So, but then we get to Christian Bale. Yeah, he's pretty sexy. He's a pretty sexy dude.
Lenny thinks West is sexier than Clooney, hands down. I just think that Lenny, not a lot of people would agree with you. Anyway.
Thank you, Lenny. I appreciate that.
Fiona will agree with you. I don't know if Fiona does.
Ben Affleck, Batman. He's kind of has that DILF energy. Like, not gonna lie, he's big. It's all like he has the big broad shoulders.
I'm getting something in my ear. I think Henry Cavill Superman is the answer that from Fiona.
I'm just going through everything, and then we got Robert Pattinson's like Aaron Carter emo My Chemical Romance shit. No, not sexy. Like Robert Pattinson as Robert Pattinson is sexy, but him as Batman not sexy at all. And I'm pretty sure that's the point. And now if we go back to Superman, we got George Reeves. Has a bit of the dad bod. He kind of has the sex appeal like Adam West does, but not quite as sexy as Adam West. But he's, he had that sexy dad bod. And then we have,
wow, Lenny's just
Christopher
going
Reeve
after Batfleck in the chat.
He got that jawline. He got those bright blue eyes. He got that, six pack. Christopher Reeve was that dude was sexy. All right, and then we got,
the broad shoulders.
Then we got Dean Cain. Dean Cain was pretty good looking. Like, yeah, like I'll give it to him.
Dean Cain was a great television Superman. I thought he in his prime it worked.
See, boom, there you go, Batfleck.
Batfleck. I mean, Lenny's like, she's a lesbian, but she will go for Batfleck, hot as hell. I would.
Yeah, and plus, he is rich. Certainly that. I'm sure that helps.
He's definitely not taking at this moment in time.
Brandon Routh,
take your shot while you can.
Brandon Routh, no. When in Batman Superman Returns, but in Crisis, yes. I think Brandon Routh has gotten better with age. So in Crisis, yes, in
Okay.
Superman Returns, no. Tom Welling, he was a high schooler, so let's not even touch that. And then Henry
Tom Welling
Cavill
was
was
a
just
high.
like pure
Tom
raw
Welling
sex
was a
appeal.
high schooler. Keyword: he's not a high schooler anymore.
I mean, I would say Tom Welling now as
Yes.
Tom Welling. I think he kind of again has
Yeah.
the DILF energy
But
a
dude,
little bit.
even then, he wasn't actually like the actor Tom Welling
I
wasn't
know,
a
but
high
it's still kind
schooler
of
when he
weird
was
to
playing.
talk about. You know?
Okay, fine, but you gotta
And then
separate the art from the artist. You know what I mean?
I would say
Like
David
he
Cornsweet
was
is
playing a character. Okay.
decently sexy. I think he's
Well,
pretty
clearly,
attractive.
John, you've seen David Cornsweet's bulge, so you know.
Okay. Well, it's
Like
nothing.
Lenny
It's
would
nothing like
probably,
Frank. Well, it's nothing like Frank Grillo's.
you
I
know.
mean, that's just
Yeah.
clearly Princess Alana was enjoying it. I'm just saying.
God.
But you know, it's just
Yeah, the show has officially gone off the rails again.
yeah.
Now that we have gone off the rails, let's kind of wrap things up a little bit, but by talking about something else that was
I
pretty
never
much
said I wasn't
completely
gay.
off the. Yes,
I'm
John,
just
that is
saying.
true. That is true. John has canonically not declared
I've never said it, and I'm not gonna
one way
say
or
it.
the
You
other.
just have to keep guessing. Am I just a man that is appreciating another man's body, or am I actually gay? Who knows? That's for you to decide. Make a poll right now. Is John gay? Is John bisexual?
Do
Is
you
John
really
straight?
want me to make that poll for you, John?
If
Do
you
you
want.
really want that poll? You know what? We'll do that next time. But this Deadpool video came out today that Linda Carter is in, and of course they were ribbing the whole idea that she played Wonder Woman. I mean, of course that's what she's most well known for. I really enjoyed watching this because it's just it's you know for a good cause, sick kids. The organization and for raising money for the holidays to help kids have those who won't otherwise be able to celebrate Christmas with quite the same means as some of us who are a little bit luckier and Ryan Reynolds does a lot of great work as part of his many businesses just personally and it's that time of the year, sick kids hospital, and if they can do anything whether it's with the Deadpool character or just whatever influence and sway Ryan Reynolds has, putting this video together again, of course he's like, if you're gonna do it, we're gonna do it to the max. And so they brought in Linda Carter, and it's just like, oh my god, this is so good. I watched this video and I was just like laughing at it, and I thought it was pretty good. But the best part of it is right at the end. It's like the part right at the end where it's like, she's like, this is not what I thought I would. This is not the sweater I thought I would turn. Like when she does the whole spin to become Wonder Woman, and she's like, oh, Deadpool's like, what a wonderful woman. Because except she doesn't get to put on the costume, and then of course he says the DC lawyers. I knew it. It's probably the same guy that got Henry Cavill and that other Batman. And I was just laughing my ass off.
But the thing is, I understand you're talking about James Gunn,
Gunn,
but it's like I don't get what do you mean got him? Like got him fired? Is that what he's saying? Or,
well,
they got rid of him.
He got essentially right because Henry Cavill came back, and then James Gunn was like, wait a second, I think we want a new actor to play the role. So. Yeah, I had fun with it. This was one of those like shit fucks down the street moments, and I just enjoyed it because again, Deadpool just pokes fun at it in ways that feel perfect. Like this is obviously very harmless. It's not.
I mean, now what we need to do, we need to make we need to make Ambush Bug a thing, because that's like essentially DC's original Deadpool because he's fourth wall breaking. Get him get Charlie Day to play him, and then we could start clapping back to this shit that Ryan Reynolds is doing.
Yeah,
because I'm sick of this shit. We need our own fourth wall breaking.
Don't worry, that's gonna happen when we get to like Booster Gold or something like that. I feel like that's maybe where they're gonna start to do that, or maybe sooner. Who knows? Maybe that's what Guy Gardner is gonna do. Guy Gardner is gonna break the fourth wall in Superman, and then somebody will break him, and then that's where the Lantern show starts. But anyway, that's my theory. I will
break you.
John's Bane voice is back. All right, well. This was I loved it. I love this video. It's a great way to promote a good cause again, and Linda Carter taking part. She was meant to be in Wonder Woman 3. That was the plan. She got introduced at the end of Wonder Woman 1984 as one of the other Amazonians. So I do hope that moving forward, whichever direction that Wonder Woman show goes in, the Paradise Lost, maybe Linda Carter can have a cameo or a recurring role in it, or maybe she becomes a part of the official Wonder Woman lore in the DCU in the present day. We'll see. But it's again, Deadpool doing his best to rib at it's probably that same guy that got Henry Cavill and that other Batman. I loved it. I was just laughing, and just smiling ear to ear. It's like, this is the DC lawyers. I knew it. Well, Deadpool versus the DC universe. Maybe that's that's the movie that we need next. Because certainly he's not willing to do his own standalone movie. Maybe he'll just play second fiddle to the whole DC universe. Just cross over, Ryan. Come on into the new DCU. We got lots of room for you.
Side.
Take a ride on the wild side. And speaking of which, taking a ride on the wild side, we hope you guys take a ride on the right. I just totally messed up my words. Basically, get some rest. Come back here tomorrow. We'll have another episode of DCU Daily for you. But thanks for stopping by. And yeah, I mean that was all the news we had today. We talked more Clayface. It was great. And
another great Creature Commandos
episode. Lots of tears shed and very emotional stuff. The Weasel is going to be at the center of everybody's attention next week on Creature Commandos, so we will review that next week. Tomorrow, I believe we are doing a fan casting. Who are we fan casting, John? Tomorrow?
I believe Huntress.
We're doing a Huntress fan casting tomorrow.
Talking about her because we were talking about her a couple days ago. So
yes. Well, stop by for that, guys. But until then, we hope you have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you again for joining us from all over the world. And on your way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tickle the notification bell so you know when we go live with a new episode of the show. Of course, we will be back tomorrow with another episode, and then we'll be back on Monday. It's been another great week at DCU Daily, and we'll see you tomorrow. And John, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, of course, the finger salute, the two finger, whatever. We'll see you next time on another episode of DCU Daily.